Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and its sequel take place after the complete official Zelda timeline, which you can check out right up here. Instead, in this video, we will focus on the entire timeline of the Breath of the Wild saga, based on information provided by the games and the official Breath of the Wild lecture, Creating a Champion. These state that the Kingdom of Hyrule has a long and storied past, where the events of one era may just be ancient myths in another. Since olden times, the land has repeatedly undergone periods of prosperity and decline. It is unknown whether the legends passed down are actually true or simply myths from a distant past. The three games, Age of Calamity, Breath of the Wild, and its sequel, take place tens of thousands of years after any prior entry in the series, but their backstories stretch back all the way to the timeline split in Ocarina of Time, and even beyond to Goddess Hylia and the Demon King demise. Even so, Creating a Champion limits Breath of the Wild's timeline and some ruins back to the distant past or times unknown, which could or could not be the timeline of the previous Zelda games. Back then, Ganondorf, the last king of the Gerudo, transformed into Dark Beast Ganon and threatened Hyrule. The Princess of Hyrule with her divine power and the chosen hero with the sword that seals the darkness combined forces and sealed Ganon. Then, in a seemingly endless cycle of darkness and light, Ganon continued to be revived and then sealed away, until the cycle was broken. For a change, Ganondorf wasn't killed, but imprisoned in stasis to prevent another reincarnation of Demise's hatred or revival to set foot in Hyrule. Due to this action, for what could be even 10,000 years, Hyrule prospered like never before, mostly thanks to the ancient Sheikah and their advanced technology containing observatories, towers, and much more. Unfortunately, this time of growth and peace had an expiration date, as the imprisoned Ganondorf, through his hatred and malice, managed to slowly create a devastating calamity of himself that would challenge the order in Hyrule. To counter this threat, the few ancient Sheikah who had received a revelation from Goddess Hylia molded and set up an army of weaponized guardians and 4 divine beasts piloted by selected individuals. Combined with the princess and the hero, they would keep any creations of Ganondorf in check. Eventually, Ganondorf managed to invade the Kingdom of Hyrule through a calamity from his amassed hatred and malice. Ultimately, Calamity Ganon was challenged by the incumbent princess, her chosen hero, the pilots of divine beasts, and an army of guardians. After a long-fought battle to corner the beast, the combined forces set the stage for the final blow inflicted by the hero and sealing by the princess. Ganondorf's first attempt to invade the kingdom through a calamity was thwarted, and though his position looked hopeless from where he was sealed, over the next 10,000 years he would hatch another, much more bulletproof plan to destroy the kingdom he despised. The ancient Sheikah monks, after a revelation from Goddess Hylia, realized this threat and prepared a Plan B. Together, they retreated for their shrines of trials and mummified themselves there to wait for the first hero candidate after Calamity Ganon succeeded. Time passed, and the events of Calamity Ganon's sealing faded into legend. But as life returned back to normal, the Hylians grew more suspicious of the Sheikah, their battle tactics, and technology. As a result, the King of Hyrule ordered the Sheikah to give up their current way of life and hide away their technological achievements underground. This came as a shock to the tribe and caused a great schism. Those who were loyal to the Hyrulean crown as the mortal incarnations of the blood of the goddess accepted the order from the royal family and settled down for modest lives in Kakariko. The same cannot be said about the traditional warriors who lived by the code of the old monks underground. They saw this order from the Hylians as an act of cowardice and the loyalist Sheikah as traitors. The Hylians didn't take this refusal lightly and chased these rebels out of the kingdom. The Sheikah traditionalists, which were now chased to the inhospitable west of Hyrule, swore vengeance by pleading allegiance to Calamity Ganon and by setting up a new order, the Yiga clan. Considered as Sheikah traitors who swore fealty to Calamity Ganon by the other tribes, they sought refuge in the depths of the Gerudo province, plotted revenge on the royal family. Thousands of years passed, and eventually the memory of the hidden Sheikah guardians and divine beasts under the surface faded away. It was first during the reign of King RHOAM Bosphoramus Hyrule, and after his queen had given birth to a new Zelda, that the fortune teller prophesied another calamity, and with it the power to oppose it. The hidden ancient Sheikah guardians and divine beasts were remembered. Despite the imminent existential threat from Calamity Ganon, morale was high. The queen had awakened her sealing power as the bloodline descendant of the first Zelda years ago, and the Sheikah scientists had made quick progress in unearthing and restoring ancient weaponry. Thus, the queen didn't face the same pressure as her daughter would a few years later. In fact, the queen's awoken powers allowed the scientifically obsessed Zelda to have a very good early upbringing. Together with her mother, they would venture out on extensive scientific excursions, unearthing ancient artifacts and even assembling smaller Sheikah guardians. The great optimism lasted until the kingdom was dealt a major blow in the form of the queen's passing. The speculations surrounding her death include everything from assassination by the Yiga clan, an ally of Ganon, to natural causes. Though what mattered is that the premature death left the responsibility of sealing away the calamity on the 6-year-old Princess Zelda. Realizing that Hyrule's future now depended on his only child, King RHOAM ensured that his daughter would not be distracted from unlocking her dormant power. Sadly for Zelda, this also meant hiding away her precious egg guardian. Nearly a decade passed. Zelda forgot about the guardian of her childhood, and through that time, all 4 of the divine beasts were located and unearthed. Still, the princess's power remained dormant, and the Yiga clan intensified their activity in preparation of Calamity Ganon's return. Unbeknownst to both of them at the same time, the greatly talented Link was being drilled by his female instructor and swordmaster. Link followed in a long bloodline of Imperial Guardsmen and had reached the rank of Knight at a record low age. Still, it was his first performance during his baptism of fire, the Battle of Hyrule Field, which confirmed the great strength and courage in front of the king and made him the obvious candidate to pull and wield the Master Sword. With it, he would soon become the Hylian champion and the princess's chosen knight. Zelda was sent by her father on a mission to recruit champions who would pilot the 4 divine beasts: Vah Ruta, Vah Rudanya, Vah Meadow, and Vah Naboris. In this process, Princess Mipha of the Zora, Daruk of the Gorons, Rito warrior Revali, and the deceased queen's close friend, Gerudo Chief Urbosa, were all approached by the princess and promptly accepted the dangerous mission. In a grand ceremony, Link, Mipha, Daruk, Revali, and Urbosa were appointed as champions of Hyrule and granted the divine blue garbs representing the royal family and which had been crafted by Zelda. Link's success to pull and wield the sword that seals the darkness greatly angered Zelda, who realized that everything now rested on the awakening of her power. It also didn't help that her father constantly reminded of her divine duty. There was also a different issue for Zelda, the Yiga clan, which sought her and Link's blood, all to fulfill their pledge to Calamity Ganon and to get their revenge on the Hylians and the Sheikah loyal to the divine royal family. Zelda supervised the preparations of the divine beasts while continuing her research of the many locked mysterious shrines and guardians. After troubling beginnings with Link, Zelda eventually took a liking to the young Hylian champion after he saved her from a Yiga clan ambush and greater waves of monsters. Despite increasing pressure from her father and being turned into a laughingstock by the inhabitants of Hyrule Castle and town, Zelda was still unable to unleash the great power that dwelled within her. After failing in her prayers at the Spring of Power and Courage, on her 17th birthday, Zelda set out for the Spring of Wisdom at Mount Lanayru. The attempt failed, and just as things couldn't get any worse, Ganon struck mercilessly right after Champion Link and the princess were reunited with the other champions. But even this torment was not sufficient to unleash Zelda's sealing power. As a result, Link and Zelda's effort to reach Hyrule Castle and confront Calamity Ganon was for naught. Primarily due to the ancient tramp, the Guardians posed to defeat Calamity Ganon were corrupted by his malice, and as more corrupted stalkers came out of the rising pillars, the kingdom was doomed. Hyrule Castle fell, and Hyrule Castle Town was burned down to the ground with its remaining civilians. King RHOAM lost his life in the ensuing chaos, and the champions piloting the divine beasts followed suit after falling to WATERBLIGHT, FIREBLIGHT, WINDBLIGHT, and THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon. Link and Zelda were next in line as a horde of Guardian stalkers were on the hunt after the running pair. Eventually, after getting some distance from the Guardians, Zelda couldn't hold out anymore and broke down in tears over the loss of her loved ones. The kingdom of Hyrule was collapsing, and so was the defense of the besieged Akala Citadel, which was overrun by Guardians. The only Hylian stronghold standing was Fort Hateno. Aware of this, and determined to get Zelda to safety, Link broke through Guardian Stalker upon Guardian Stalker, but despite his greatest efforts, could not avoid being cornered and unable to resist in front of the fort. Here, Link made his last stand. He shielded the princess from the onslaught of corrupted Guardians until the Master Sword was in shambles and he was brought down to his knees. Zelda begged Link to save his own life and run, but he refused. With it, a Guardian Stalker controlled by the imprisoned Ganondorf managed to set aim on the barely standing Hylian champion. Witnessing this out of desperation and love to Link, Zelda finally conquered her reservations and unleashed her sealing power, the possible complete Triforce. The Divine Light turned the approaching Guardians into scrap and awoke the uncorrupted Guardian hidden away in Zelda's study. Realizing her creator's wish to protect her loved ones, it played the Song of Time to open a gate of time and traveled back in time after evading a corrupted Guardian. Witnessing this, Ganon unleashed malice from this Guardian to pursue the tiny Guardian. We will eventually get to this heavy spoiler section of the timeline, but for now, let's focus on Link and Zelda's low point. Since Zelda's divine power could not prevent Link from collapsing in her arms, as his life was fading away, Zelda noticed that the damaged Master Sword and possibly the spirit within the blade still responded to its master. Something had to be done, so she ordered 2 approaching Sheikah warriors to bring the mortally wounded Hylian champion to the medical facility at the Shrine of Resurrection. But Zelda wasn't done, since after consulting Impa about her decision and returning the ruined Master Sword back to its pedestal in front of the Great Deku Tree, she finally forced her way into Hyrule Castle and confronted Calamity Ganon. With it, the century-long battle to keep him coward commenced. Zelda managed to contain the scourge of Hyrule Castle for 100 years, but as her powers waned, the time arrived for Link to wake up in the Shrine of Resurrection. With his first steps taken, Link was guided by the voice of Zelda to the Sheikah Slate, and from there out to the Great Plateau. After fooling around for a minute or so, Zelda grew impatient and ordered Link to raise the Sheikah Tower of the plateau and the rest of Hyrule and to activate the Sheikah Shrines of the land. She then went on to inform him of the great threat of Calamity Ganon. Still uncertain of what to do, Link was approached by a paragliding old man who quickly realized that Link suffered from amnesia. Not willing to waste any time, he told him that in order to get off the plateau, he would have to prove himself worthy of the 4 spirit orbs found within the plateau's Sheikah Shrines. Link entered, downloaded the 4 physics and chemistry-defying runes to his Sheikah Slate, conquered the trials prepared for him by the ancient Sheikah monks, and received the spirit orbs. With them, he set out for the decaying Temple of Time. At this point, the old man grew tired of hiding his true identity and revealed his identity as King RHOAM Bosphoramos, the last king of Hyrule. Still in disbelief, Link listened carefully as the spirit of the deceased king detailed everything on the ancient sealing war 10,000 years ago, the Guardians, divine beasts, champions of Hyrule, the defeat 100 years ago, the fall of his kingdom, and his daughter Princess Zelda's ongoing battle against Calamity Ganon. With Link briefed of his mission to destroy Ganon, save Zelda, and free Hyrule from evil, he was finally granted the paraglider. With it, he departed for the old Chica Master Impa at Kakariko Village. Impa further detailed to Link the ancient battle, the threat of Calamity Ganon, the necessity to free the 4 corrupted divine beasts, and reclaiming his lost memories. This would bring the former Hylian champion to Hateno's post-Calamity Ancient Tech Lab to light the ancient furnace with a blue flame. With it, and thanks to the age-reversed eccentric genius sister of Impa, Pura's help, the full functionality to the Sheikah Slate was restored, and 12 images depicting locations from his past were revealed. Link presented these to Impa and Kakariko, who instructed him to visit all of these locations in order to restore his memories and reclaim part of his past self. Link located at least one of these and was handed the royal blue champion tunic which Zelda had crafted for him 100 years prior. Fully geared, Link set out to battle disguised Chica traitors from the dishonorable Yiga clan who sought the hero's blood in Ganon's name. Little did they know that Link would soon successfully infiltrate their hideout, defeat their master Koga, and retake the Thunder Helm. Link then headed for the 4 divine beasts, Vah Ruta in Lanayru, Vah Rudania in Eldon, Vah Meadow in Hebra, and Vah Naboris in Gerudo. On his way, he learned that all 4 machines had recently gone berserk and endangered Zora's domain, Goron City, Rito Village, and Gerudo Town. Determined, he joined Princess Mipha's brother Prince Sidon, the shy but strong Goron Yunubo, Rito warrior Tiba, and finally Gerudo chief Riju, who all spoke warmly of the deceased champions. With their help, Link reclaimed some of the memories from the times he spent with the deceased champions, the brutal but warm encounters with Daruk, the close and intimate relation he shared with the gracious Princess Mipha, the rivalry with cocky Rivali, and the respectful ties with the thunderous and reflected Urbosa. Awakened and fully aware of his mission inside the beasts, Link, aided by his new allies, made his way to the entrances of the 4 ancient wonders of Hyrule. The divine beasts were sophisticated weapons and machines. Inside, they were full of mechanical components which could be controlled to solve puzzles and conquer obstacles to reach and activate the different terminals and then the main control unit. With it, WATERBLIGHT, FIREBLIGHT, WINDBLIGHT, and THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon charged at Link with their dirty tactics. Even so, nothing could stop Link from destroying the murderers and freeing the spirits of their champion victims. As reward for these feats, Link was gifted Daruk's protection, Mipha's grace, Rivali's gale, and Urbosa's fury. With these powers and the relics and the divine beasts again by his side, the champions moved into position and set their aim on Hyrule Castle's sanctum. Still, to strengthen the probability of victory against Ganon and receive Zelda gracefully, Link would first have to claim all of the remaining lost memories and conquer enough shrines to pull the Master Sword from the pedestal at Korok Forest. The struggle was long and tough. Luckily, on the way, Link met and befriended a number of individuals, including his former friend, the Sheikah genius eccentric Robbie, and the accordion-playing Rito, Cass. He had learned about Link and Zelda's past from his former teacher, the Sheikah court poet at Hyrule Castle, who had passed on his musical and lyrical knowledge to Cass. Eventually, after completing all of his shrine quests, he informed Link about Princess Zelda's love for him. Grateful for the lessons, Link finally had the courage and health to enter and navigate through the Lost Woods to Korok Forest. There, the great Deku Tree scolded the Hylian champion before Link finally was allowed to pull the restored Master Sword. With the blade of Evil's Bane in his hand, Link conquered a number of shrines across Hyrule, and along the way found the locations that made it possible for him to reclaim all of his memories and finally, after a short briefing with Impa, head for the site where he nearly lost his life. Even so, Zelda desired to offer Link a final set of trials. First, to unleash the true power of the Master Sword, and then to further test Link's abilities on the Great Plateau, across Hyrule to remember and learn more from the deceased champions, and finally face the trial of the 5th Divine Beast. Here, Link confronted and mastered the last trial offered by the ancient Sheikah monk and warrior, Maz Koshia. Thus, Link was dubbed as the true hero of Hyrule, granted the masterpiece of ancient Sheikah technology, and listened to Cass playing the complete Champion's Ballad. Zelda confirmed that the hour of redemption had arrived. Ready, Link made his last preparations and then destroyed the Guardians and Lynels, claimed the Hylian Shield, stormed the rest of Hyrule Castle, and finally confronted its scourge, Calamity Ganon. Relieved but also exhausted, Princess Zelda dropped her grip of the monstrosity, which threw Ganon and Link down to the astral observatory of the castle. But as it was about to unleash its fury, the spirits of the champions and the divine beasts came to the rescue. Sending a powerful combined beam that greatly weakened Calamity Ganon and set the stage for Link to unleash the true power of the Master Sword. Calamity Ganon was destroyed. The only thing that remained was to destroy the reincarnating curse that was Dark Beast Ganon. Though still trapped within Ganon, Princess Zelda managed to hand Link the Bow of Light and inform that Ganon, who was born out of Demise's hatred and malice, had given up on reincarnating to achieve this ultimate form. It was now or never for Hyrule, and with the masterful choreography, Zelda created the gaps, and Link pierced them to finally open and destroy the main Eye of Malice. As a consequence, Zelda was freed from her imprisonment and left to conclude the job of sealing or perhaps even annihilating the beast. Peace finally settled as the champions and king finally departed this world, while Link, with his fully restored memory, and Princess Zelda set out to restore Hyrule to its former or perhaps even greater glory. Even so, the Master Sword could not be laid to rest, as a massive obstacle was still in the way to Hyrule's restoration. Since Ganondorf, not Calamity Ganon, controlled the corrupted Guardians, with them destroyed their homes, killed most of their family and friends, and ruined more than a century of Zelda's life. No doubt, Zelda of the Era of the Wild was determined to take matters into her own hands. That included her hair, which was cut short to distance herself from her former failures as the Princess of Hyrule. She then assisted Link into Hyrule's depths, abandoned since the distant past, to confront the mummified Ganondorf with a fully powered Blade of Evil's Bane. As they reached their target, Ganondorf broke free of the seal placed in the distant past and confronted Zelda, perhaps to escape or to once again fight for the complete Triforce. That still remains to be told, but luckily there is a different reality and timeline split. And this is the point where we want to warn those of you who haven't finished Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. Spoilers incoming for the entire game as we go into the second timeline split in the Zelda series. Click away now if you haven't finished the game, or be spoiled in the next few minutes. Terrako escaped the downfall of the Kingdom of Hyrule from its own timeline, but couldn't return to its own past as it had already occurred. Instead, when Terrako, pursued by Ganon's malice, dropped out of its gate of time, it ended up in a new world that had been created or born thanks to the tiny Guardian, with the same past as its own timeline until the Battle of Hyrule Field, but as it would turn out, a different future. While battling monsters in front of Hyrule Garrison, the young knight, Link, located the tiny Guardian, which rejuvenated after Impa threw and activated the Sheikah Slate for Link to use. Still unbeknownst to the young knight and the advisor to the royal family had come from a reality of ruin to prevent it in their own reality. Terrako's intervention and creation of a different world began with lifting the Sheikah Tower in central Hyrule 100 years prior. The unknown Guardian's abilities required additional investigation, so Impa suggested to visit her eccentric scientist sister Pura and her scientific partner Robbie at the Royal Ancient Lab. There, after facing the first Guardian, which was corrupted by Ganon's malice from the future of ruin, they realized the grim reality that awaited them if they couldn't alter the future outcome. An outcome that the imprisoned Ganondorf would do his utmost to preserve. First, he possessed with his malice the deactivated Terraco and Zelda's study of this new reality, and then reached out to the Prophet of Doom, Aster, to be his right hand. In other words, when Princess Zelda, Impa, and Link headed out to recruit the champions that would pilot the divine beasts, Harbinger Ganon brought waves of monsters following them. This resulted in a desperate chase to rescue Prince Sidon from a Lynel, a divine beast intervention which made Princess Mipha the pilot of divine beast Vah Ruta, a climb to the top of Death Mountain where Daruk destroyed Ganon's invaders with divine beast Vah Rudanya and offered Link a treat he couldn't refuse. The welcome was less warm in Tabantha, where Rito forces and their finest warrior, Revali, had been attacked by the Ganon's forces led by Harbinger Ganon and feared another invasion when Link approached with Terraco, who looked just like Harbinger Ganon. This resulted in a brief skirmish until Zelda intervened and finally Revali volunteering to pilot Divine Beast Vah Meadow. In Gerudo, the situation was even worse as the entire delegation from Hyrule Castle was ambushed by Urbosa's Gerudo warriors until they reached Gerudo Town. There, Gerudo Chief Urbosa shocked, exposed, and then cornered the disguised Master Koga of the Yiga clan. He almost also ended up captive or worse, but just as Urbosa, Link, and Impa were about to make their move, Koga's right hand, Suga, stepped in, knocked them back, and brought his master back to safety. Tired by the Sheikah traitors' incursions and concerned about Princess Zelda's well-being, Urbosa promptly accepted the nomination as Gerudo champion and pilot of Divine Beast Vah Naboris. But that didn't stop Aster, who turned out to be behind the recent Yiga attack to kill Princess Zelda. Realizing after the first failure that Koga was useless to accomplish any of his tasks, he instead sent Suga, who turned out to be a much bigger threat in the settlements surrounding the Great Plateau. Ultimately, Link had to step in to save the princess's life, and with it, Zelda's respect for him increased. It became more apparent that Link was something special, and though Revali mocked that he would end up as a fallen knight, he would soon eat those words after clearing Korok Forest of Ganon's monsters both from above and within the fog. Nevertheless, within the Lost Woods and Korok Forest, not only Hestu awaited, but also Aster. With his hollows, he sent Link flying and ordered them to kill her. It was then when the Master Sword's divine light, or possibly its spirit Phi, intervened, dissolved the hollows, and allowed Link to pull the Master Sword. Aster was in a sea of trouble as he couldn't withstand the power of the legendary blade. He had no other choice but to retreat back to the Yiga clan hideout. The wielder of the Blade of Evil's Bane had been selected by the Master Sword, and the champions were ready to pilot their divine beasts into battle. To honor this great milestone, King RHOAM hosted a grand ceremony in Hyrule Castle's sanctum. There he appointed Link, Princess Mipha, Daruk, Revali, and Gerudo Chief Urbosa as Hyrule's champions and granted them their royal blue champion garments crafted by his daughter. Only Zelda's stealing power remained dormant, a fact which increasingly bothered the princess and angered the king. In an emotional moment where the princess gifted her father an unknown ancient relic which she had unearthed with the queen, RHOAM reminded Zelda of her divine duty as the one with the blood of the goddess in her veins. Zelda continued to be distracted as Terraco and Pura led Champion Link to raise the other Sheikah towers of the land with the Sheikah Slate. These were then activated, but when the turn came to activate the final tower in Akkala, Master Koga sent out Suga, the Blade Masters, and the Yiga foot soldiers. The Yiga clan ambush was repelled, the citadel retaken, while the Sheikah Slate exposed the location of the Yiga clan hideout. Urbosa led Vah Naboris into battle and opened the path for Link, Zelda, and Impa to storm the stronghold of the Yiga clan and beat up Master Koga and Suga. After this humiliation, the Yiga commanders had enough and nearly turned their back to Aster until he was reminded that going against the Prophet of Doom would make the Yiga clan an enemy of Calamity Ganon. The victory over the Yiga allowed Purah to unlock the Sheikah Slate's ability to teleport multiple individuals. This greatly impressed Zelda, who came to realize that the time had come for her to retreat to divine training at the springs of power, courage, and wisdom. And with good reason, as Robbie analyzed that the Calamity would rise its head on Zelda's 17th birthday. The journey to the Spring of Power and Courage failed to awaken the dormant power. Thus, Zelda, Link, and Impa, on the eve of her 17th birthday, set out for Mount Lanayru and the Spring of Wisdom. Hyrule Castletown lay abandoned after King RHOAM had urged the citizens of Central Hyrule to evacuate out of the lowlands. The king had also deployed the Divine Beast pilots to take position and fire when the Calamity would strike, but remained on his post in the castle with the Royal Guard and his army. Nevertheless, Ganon and the Yiga clan were planning to foil these preparations. The Yiga by taking Robbie and Purah hostage. Luckily, Terrako was able to make a run for Princess Zelda and deliver the Sheikah Slate to her. Just when Zelda was to see the World of Ruin's image on the Sheikah Slate, Ganon struck mercilessly. The attack the day prior to Zelda's birthday left the champions hanging at their respective deactivated Sheikah towers to run for their divine beasts. Ganon poured his malice to corrupt the guardians stationed at the castle. Link and Impa went to work, destroying guardians and helping Zelda find her father at the castle sanctum. It soon turned out that he wasn't there, and instead Link had to battle numerous guardian stalkers to break his way to the Great Hall where a white-maned Lynel blocked the further path. Link defeated this one and rushed with Princess Zelda and Impa out of the castle until a guardian missed its shot. It placed its target again, this time on Zelda and then Link's Hylian shield. Just then, King RHOAM struck the guardian and ordered Link to run with his daughter. Link did not hesitate, despite Zelda's objections, as the damaged guardian, along with two other guardians from the docks, set their target on the king instead. A massive guardian explosion caught Zelda's attention, but Link kept running. The princess feared the worst and broke down as she was confronted by the sight of the corrupted divine beasts from the reality of ruin on the Sheikah Slate. The situation seemed hopeless, but what Zelda didn't know was that her father was still alive after the ancient relic she handed to him activated in the form of a giant ancient shield. With it, the targeting Guardian's beam was parried. Realizing that his daughter's gift had saved her, King RHOAM didn't waste time and ordered a withdrawal of the Royal Guard and armed forces from the castle to the Great Plateau. Meanwhile, Terrako attempted to cheer up the grieving Zelda by playing her lullaby, but to no avail. Something more direct was required, and when one of the princess's tears hit the tiny guardian, it took matters into its own hands by playing the Song of Time to bring assistance to the dueling divine beast pilots. With it, adult Prince Sidon, Yunobo, Gerudo Chief Riju, and Rito Warrior Tiba of the future of Ruin time traveled just in time to save Princess Mipha, Daruk, Gerudo Chief Urbosa, and Revali in Terrako's new reality. Two champions against one Blight Ganon in all four instances bought enough time for Link to battle his way to Vah Ruta, Vah Rudania, Vah Naboris, and finally Vah Meadow. There he confronted WaterBlight, FireBlight, THUNDERBLIGHT, and Windblight Ganon, and knocked them out of the divine beasts. Well, all except for Windblight Ganon, which Revali with Tiba took care of with divine beast Vah Meadow. Daruk and Yunobo also crushed some guardians, but that is less important. The champions and Link's victorious battles against the Blights and Guardians infuriated Aster, who extracted the life of the useless, in his eyes, Yiga foot soldiers so that Calamity Ganon could resurrect the four fallen Blights. He then sent Hollow Champion Link to consume the life force of the Yiga command, but faced opposition from Suga, who protected Master Koga. Both made their stand against Hollow Link and the bloodthirsty Aster, who made their next move towards Akkala Citadel. hundreds of guardians were approaching the assumed to be impregnable stronghold, where the mood was grim until Robbie hinted that help was on its way. More precisely, divine beast Varuta, and within it, Princess Mipha from Terraco's reality, and Prince Sidon from the ruined reality, who were making their way from Lanayru. The citadel was burning when Link, Zelda, and Impa were approaching, and Link would have fallen to a guardian if Varuta didn't knock it away. The battle to defend Akkala's citadel commenced as Link, aided by Varuta and its pilots, stormed the enemy lines and ultimately knocked out the bridge to the citadel and the Malice guardians in the citadel's interior and outdoor grounds. Liberated from the guardian hell, Robbie informed that Purah was holding the line at Fort Hateno, but the time was also about to run out there. The same was the case for Hyrule Field, where a ceaseless onslaught of guardians were pouring out from Hyrule Castle and town. Luckily, Urbosa, with Va Naboris, dealt with the first wave and was then joined by the remaining divine beasts who washed, knocked, and beamed the guardians in Hyrule Field out of existence. Link, Zelda, and Impa fought valiantly at the battleground around and within Fort Hateno, but were soon enough confronted by Aster and the resurrected Blights. Just like in the case with her father, Impa forced Zelda to run while Link confronted all of the Blights. But as the princess realized that there was no way for the Hylian champion to prevail, she knocked Impa's hand away. Determined, she ran towards him and reached her hand out to Link. Showing her true feelings and love, Zelda finally awoke her dormant sealing power and sent a bright light which paralyzed the Blights, knocked out the Guardians, and left Aster in disbelief. Princess Zelda, with her divine power of the blood of the goddess, and the champion with the spirit of the hero and the master sword, destroyed the Blights and turned the tide of battle of Fort Hateno. Aster retreated for the occupied castle, while Zelda boosted the morale of the remnants of the Hyrulean army. All of these events caused the betrayed Master Koga to swear fealty to the princess and offer his forces. Link, Divine Zelda, Impa, now with Master Koga, and the Yiga clan made their way to aid the defenders of the Great Plateau out of the Shrine of Resurrection and finally the Temple of Time, where King RHOAM finally apologized and reconciled with his daughter. The stage was set, and with Purah's enhancements to the teleportation ability of the Sheikah Slate and Towers, the reassembled army of the Kingdom of Hyrule was joined by the forces of the Zora Kingdom, the Goron, Rito, Gerudo warriors, the Yiga clan, the four divine beasts, and Hestu. All of Hyrule was united to make their ultimate stand within central Hyrule Field, and to bring the fall of Calamity Ganon and his right hand Aster. After a longer battle, Zelda dispelled the barrier surrounding the castle, and the divine beasts fired into it, but then the Blood Moon rose. The fallen monsters were resurrected, but Link, Princess Zelda, Impa, and the champions didn't give in, and instead broke into Castle Town to confront Aster, who revealed the corrupted Terraco of this reality and the true form of Harbinger Ganon. Together with the champions of this reality and their successors of the ruined reality, Link, Zelda, and Impa sliced and beamed their way through all kinds of guardians, Lynels, and Blights to finally confront and greatly weaken Harbinger Ganon and Aster. Cornered, the Prophet of Doom ordered Harbinger Ganon to devour his enemies, but seeking a more human-like form, it instead devoured its right hand and then the rest of his body. Tragically, Harbinger Ganon, controlled by the imprisoned Ganondorf, didn't only target Aster in order to transform into a more human-like Calamity Ganon form, but also sent strands of malice towards Terraco and possessed it. The perfect distraction to retreat and force Link to damage the up-to-now friendly companion. The corrupted Terraco was defeated, and in a tear-filled flashback, Princess Zelda remembered that she brought life to Terraco before her mother passed away. Filled with determination to avenge everyone, she led the champion charge into Hyrule Castle's sanctum, where Calamity Ganon awaited. Though at first impregnable, the light of Zelda's power brought Terraco back to life as it rushed to blow itself up and became the savior as that dispelled the incarnated hatreds and Malice's barrier. A single part remained of Terraco, and it inspired everyone to continue the fight, first in the Sanctum, and then in the Astral Observatory, where Link, just like in the reality of Ruin, finished off Calamity Ganon.
guy!
Don't screw this up!
But unlike where Dark Beast Ganon awaited afterwards in the future of ruins, here in Terrico's reality of hope, Zelda was able, with her divine power, to seal away Calamity Ganon and restore complete peace to Hyrule. The malice was dispelled, the Soul Terrico Bolt activated the Gate of Time, and with it the time arrived for Prince Sidon, Yunobo, Tiba, and Gerudo Chief Riju to return to the reality of ruin. For Prince Sidon, this was heartbreaking, as he knew that he wouldn't see his sister again, but still kept his posture, as he knew that the victorious Princess Zelda and Hero Link against Dark Beast Ganon would soon join him, Yunobo, Tiba, and Riju. Back 100 years ago, in the world of the victorious champion, the mission to repair Terrico commenced, and was eventually crowned with success. Terrico was welcomed back by the champions, Impa, Link, and most of all, Princess Zelda, who reclaimed the extension of her mother's will and legacy over a decade after her passing. The only thing left to do was to etch the united victory on a new tapestry. In essence, it was the same as the ancient one, only with the inclusion of the time-traveling champions and the savior of Hyrule, Terrico. To you 10,000 years from now. In other words, we now have 2 worlds and 2 branches in the Breath of the Wild section of the Zelda timeline. One of Ruin, where the Zelda series currently resides, and one of Victory and Salvation, where Hyrule Warriors has left us. The question remains if Hyrule Warriors will be the only game in this branch.
We doubt it, as it greatly differs from the 100-year-long wait in the world of Ruin and could result in far more and different The Legend of Zelda games in the future after Breath of the Wild sequel, and perhaps it will also impact how Breath of the Wild sequel will unfold. But for now, be sure to leave a like under this video, subscribe and press that notification bell, and again for all notifications to not miss any videos like this production. A big thanks goes to Jason Dameron for once again a splendid narration to the Zelda timeline, and to all our Patreon supporters who made this timeline possible. That goes in particular for our royal producer Charles Shash. Obviously, these productions are expensive, so all support provided on patreon.com/commonrealm is greatly appreciated. Anyway, that's all for now, but please enjoy one or both of these 2 awesome videos.